All right, we're back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. Barbara McGinnis with us, elder law expert, taking your phone calls this morning, 737-7587. If you'd like to join us, we'll start things off with Joe. How about that?
All right.
Joe, good morning. Hi, Joe.
Good morning, Nick, and your guest. I have a question and kind of a comment. What is the average cost in Middle Tennessee for assisted living? And Nick, you better be thankful that your folks live in Idaho, not Tennessee.
Just because of the costs?
Yes.
You know, Joe is actually right. We did a study. It's just a fluke that my brother lived there, my folks moved there. Boise and Idaho as a whole, I think, ranks in the top 5 for affordable assisted living facilities.
Really?
Who knows why? But I compared kind of what my folks are getting to here, and it would be about $10,000 more a month.
Wow.
I mean, I was amazed for the same type of cost.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
So
what are the costs?
So to answer Joe's question,
yeah.
average cost for assisted living facilities costs are going to vary greatly.
Right.
So urban settings versus rural settings, new building versus old building actually makes a difference, you know, because some people get really lured in by the aesthetics of a new building.
That's right.
So I would think low end might be upper 3s, high end could go all the way to $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a month. On average, I think you should expect to pay around $5,000 a month.
I think that's right. And it also can vary too based on, you can be in assisted living, but there's different levels of care to a degree. Some are much more independent than others, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so most assisted living facilities have a base rate and it covers, you know, like your room and board, your food cost, housekeeping, the activities and things, not a lot of care. So when you move in and you're really still a high functioning person, you might pay that base rate. And that's usually what you're going to see advertised. Okay. And then as you need care, there's add-ons. There's tiers. Some facilities do a point system. They do some sort of rating system where if you're consistently needing help with bathing or you sign up for med management, there might be an extra add-on, so some tiers of care. Yeah, no,
that's exactly what my folks are dealing. They have a rating for that, how that goes on. So do you, with your company, also deal with long-term care insurance? If someone brings it up and says, you know, okay, $5,000 a month when I go to assisted living, what are your thoughts on that in terms of, you know, and when do you need to start paying for it? Like, would I need to now to get a policy to start paying for?
So long-term care insurance is one way to pay for anticipated long-term care costs. And our philosophy is if you have a policy, we need to look for the earliest opportunity to start using it, because that's usually one of the negatives or drawbacks about somebody saying to get long-term care insurance. They go, well, I might not ever need it. Well, let's look for a time that you're going to need it instead of waiting for as long as possible, right?
Okay. What will it pay for? Is it basically to pay for?
It depends on the policy.
Okay,
so some policies will pay for care at home. Some policies will pay for care in an assisted living. Some policies only pay for care in a licensed nursing home. And usually there's triggers in a policy, like you need assistance with 2 or more activities of daily living, like bathing, dressing, toileting, those kind of things. Or sometimes they have a provision in the policy that if you need constant supervision because of dementia care, that might be a trigger as well. But you're absolutely right that if you want to obtain a long-term care policy, we should probably be looking for it in our 50s.
That's where you're going to get obviously probably a better premium too. And can you get locked into that premium, or will that go up as you age? The cost?
It will probably always go up as you age.
Go up a little bit as you age. Do you have any idea off the top of your head, maybe if you start at 50, for a general policy that will pay for maybe 50% of your assisted living down the road, what would it cost? Is it like $100 a month, $50 a month, $200 a month, or any idea?
I think it depends on what you buy.
Okay, yeah, it's so varied.
Much like life insurance, if you buy $1 million policy, your premiums are probably going to be higher than if you buy a $200,000 policy.
Right.
You know.
Gotcha.
So it depends on what you buy.
But in some cases you'll recommend it. Other cases where maybe you would say no.
Oh yeah. So the things that you would need to look at when you're considering buying a long-term care policy would be, well, one, can you simply afford the premiums?
Okay.
Does it make sense for you to buy those? Do you have, if you have so much money that you could afford to pay for care privately, maybe you don't need long-term care insurance. If you have so little money that you're probably going to qualify for some public benefits, you probably don't need to buy long-term care insurance. It's us middle folks that need to be thinking about it. You know, that we've got some money, but probably not enough to carry us, because statistically, we are living longer and longer and longer. There was just something that came out the other day, a new actuarial study that said if you were a male and you already were 65, your life expectancy was likely to be like 88.5 years.
Wow.
So the longer we live, the increased likelihood that we're going to need long-term care.
Absolutely. And we're just living longer in general. The world's
Absolutely.
because of healthcare and everything else. Great point. Let's go to Taylor. Taylor, good morning. Hi, Taylor.
Good morning, Nick, and good morning to your very informative guest. I really enjoy when she and Tim are on there.
Yeah.
Thanks.
My question is this. I know whether your state is large or small or in between, everything is sort of independently applicable as to whether you were talking to a financial advisor or someone like yourself. But my question is this. The revocable living trust on real estate is well understood, and I think that's a great idea. But what are some other items that might need to also be folded into that trust? Do you throw in an IRA account into it, or outside bonds and so forth? Or just, if you don't mind, give me a hint if anything else needs to go into it, or what might doesn't need to go into it.
All right. That's a great estate planning question, because a lot of people do have revocable living trust as part of their estate plan.
Can you explain to folks what that is?
Sure. A revocable living trust, it's a very simple trust in the sense that it's transparent as to ownership. You still own your own assets. It has no tax consequences. And most of the time, people are using a revocable trust for one purpose, and that's probate avoidance.
Okay.
So instead of having a will that will take you to probate court to distribute assets, you have a revocable trust that was created during your lifetime, hence the living. Revocable simply means you can change it, you can revoke it.
How's that different than a will then? Is it?
Oh, a will goes through probate.
I know it goes through probate, and so.
But you could always change your will. You're right, as long as you have capacity.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, though, is the probate part is usually it. I mean, that's the biggest reason.
So you avoid, by doing this, you can avoid having to deal with the court there.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, I get you.
So sometimes I tell clients, you think of a revocable trust, it's kind of like the hokey pokey trust. You can put stuff in, you can take stuff out, you can put stuff, you know. It's really just subject to your desires. What do you put into the trust or title to a trust? A lot of times real estate, because that passes by a deed.
Okay. And
if you have real estate in multiple states, you're potentially opening your estate up to probate in multiple states. So a revocable trust pulls ownership all together so that ideally it would avoid probate. Certainly in all states. In all of those states.
That makes sense.
The other thing that you can put in or title to a revocable trust is any kind of money. You can title life insurance policies, you can title your CD, your money market.
He was asking about investment funds.
Yep. Investment funds, stock accounts, those kind of things. You cannot ever title a IRA or a 401k to a trust. Because it is your individual retirement account. It does trigger some tax implications at that point in time. So an IRA is always going to be in your name, but you can make the trust the beneficiary of your IRA.
Right, okay.
So your IRA at your death could go through your trust to whomever
And I guess and this is a real basic thing, and I'm a little slow on this, as you compared a will to a trust. The difference, and there are similarities there, is that I guess my point is, why the heck would you bother with a will as opposed to a trust? I mean, a trust brings everything together, you're all set, you can specify where it all goes.
I know. Personally, I'm a huge fan of trusts, because not that probate in Tennessee is all that complicated or it takes all that long. There's a lot of myths and misconceptions about probate taking years and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars. It's really not that way in Tennessee, but it is an extra step for your heirs. It is a set, you know, it's a lot to work through. It becomes very public. Think about some of these large estates that we've seen in court that make the news. It opens you up for a will contest. Perhaps you have multiple children and you do not choose to equal distributions. You don't choose for equal distribution of your assets, and so if you go through the probate process, you're opening yourself up for public display and perhaps will contest. But at the very least, let's just say best case scenario, there's no will contest, everybody's equal and happy. You don't care if it's public because there's no big secrets there. It will cut off the claims of creditors, so that's a good thing. But at the very least, you're still making your family go through a lot of steps and expense.
Probate's court. It's court.
It's court.
Is it, by the way, just curious, if it just happens to be a couple and there's no heirs and it's just husband and wife?
If you own everything as husband and wife,
then
which
will. Or does you even need one? You don't even need one.
Because you own everything as joint owners.
That's right. Okay.
Now, it's the second to die needs some way of distributing assets.
If they have someplace where it wants to go.
Yeah.
Take a break on that. That is really interesting. When we come back, more phone calls, more with our guest, Barbara McGinnis, Elder Law, right after this.